You might use the word masterpiece to describe a movie, an artwork, a book. But today we're going to be using that same word to describe some of the most amazing glasses and sunglasses ever made. Introducing Matsuda Eyewear. I'm going to be counting down the top 10 pieces from their history, and we're going to be explaining why these glasses are so special. So hi, I'm Robert, Style and Vision Consultant here at the Spectacle Factory, and it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. And if you want glasses that are a work of art and amazing quality, Matsuda is probably the brand to look at. And I'm going to start with what I think is one of the most quintessential pieces within the collection. This is the M3129, and in typical Matsuda fashion, this is exquisite. It's going to be difficult for me to summarize everything that's going on in each of the frames that Matsuda creates. Matsuda Eyewear was founded in 1989 by Mitsuhiro Matsuda, a contemporary of icons like Yohji Yamamoto and of course Kenzo Takeda, who we've seen also partner with Masunaga Eyewear for their Kenzo line. Since graduating from the same college as those legends that I just mentioned, he set out to the West to bring Japanese fashion into the spotlight. And he worked in clothing way before focusing on eyewear. He was actually one of the pioneers of fashion in eyewear in general. Of course, we have brands like Cazal that came before and had probably more of a revolutionary effect on eyewear. Cazal wasn't really fashion, it was style. Whereas Matsuda is deeply rooted in fashion. And we also had Jean-Paul Gaultier and Dior coming onto the scene at the same time. But Matsuda was the first. The reason I tell you all that is because this is a frame that is about as stylish as it gets. A classic aviator in a relatively easy to wear shape, but with so many unique details and aspects to it that make it just incredible. So first of all, we have the pince-nez, kind of like a springy mechanism. You see these pieces of titanium, they float so that when you wear it, there's zero pressure on your nose because the frame has that inbuilt flexibility. Functional, but it's also incredibly stylish at the same time because we have this intricacy around the bridge area that you just wouldn't see in a normal pair of glasses. We have trademark, and you'll see this a lot throughout the collection, engravings all around the lens rim and the top of the bridge section. And that follows through to the temple tips, which are carved from the titanium just for an extra little bit of detail. And my favorite aspect of these glasses, which is the stained glass inlay within the titanium temple, doesn't really do anything. You don't see it when you wear these glasses from either the front or from the side. You just see it from above or below. But it's a beautiful little bit of art. Now, Matsuda do great work with both titanium and acetate. The M2064 is a mostly titanium frame, but with acetate temple tips and an acetate accent along the top of the frame. The result is actually quite an unusual combination of a Clubmaster-esque style with a shield shape. And I specifically chose this frame in green because I also think green is an interesting color that you're able to wear with most outfits. This frame features the same stunning engravings that we saw on the last piece, but this time we've got conventional titanium nose pads. This is actually a matte finish, which is lovely. And the craftsmen who work on these frames in Japan have to undergo a 10-year apprenticeship before they're allowed to polish this acetate. Yeah, that is a true fact. And speaking of acetate, let's take it up a notch. This is a pretty heavy piece of acetate. You are wearing a lot of glasses on your face when you put this frame on. For me, this crosses the border of being practical because it's actually just very heavy and uncomfortable. But for those that like Jacques-Marie Mage, for example, which is a huge trend in eyewear at the moment, these really big, thick, chunky acetates, this is every bit as good as any JMM frame. When it comes to the actual quality, the polishing of the acetate, finishing of the frame, it is exquisite, immaculate, and unbelievably good. And these are actually made in the same region, the Sabai region of Japan, as Jacques-Marie Mage and Esmont, which is one of my personal favorite eyewear brands. Within this smoky gray crystal, which by the way, I think the color helps to balance out the fact that it's so thick, so I quite like it in this colorway. We see a gorgeous temple inlay and a metal hinge joint, which just makes the frames a little bit more durable in the long term. It stops the frames from splaying as much. You see a lot of plastic frames that splay out over time. This just cannot splay out. And within this part, by the way, we have a 7-barrel hinge. Looking closely at the temple inlay, you'll see the initials M and N, and that stands for Matsuda himself and Nicole, after whom he named his first fashion brand. And we touched on Clubmaster styles earlier, and if you want a pure Clubmaster style 2071, a really actually angular and square take on that, that's not really my taste, but I can appreciate it for the right person. If you want angular square frames with a lot of style, with almost the best quality in the world, this would be the one. I guess Matsuda's big rivals, Masunaga, which is I think more quintessentially Japanese, quintessentially pure in its craftsmanship. They do have some models like this, which you could argue are superior in quality. But when it comes to a statement piece, this really does catch the eye. It's bold, it's brave. Now this seems like a good moment to cover the differences between Masunaga and Matsuda. They are very different. They're often compared. So Masunaga, for me, is the best quality eyewear brand in the world. When it comes to actual craftsmanship, quality, a pair of glasses being just really well made, for me, nobody does it better than Masunaga. And there's no surprise there, really. They were founded in 1905. They're the oldest family-owned eyewear factory, I think, in the world. They're certainly the oldest in Japan, which is known as the best region for eyewear manufacturing. And they trained all of these artisans and craftsmen who are now making frames for brands like Matsuda. Matsuda, I think, comes from a different angle, because whilst these are handmade in Japan and they are exceptional quality, remember that Matsuda's focus was on fashion. So there's more of an emphasis on beauty and artistry, which, by the way, is not to say that these frames are bad quality by any means. Well, we're gonna see. I'm gonna give these an SF score at the end of the video, and you're gonna see what I really think about the quality of these frames. When you see this frame, for example, we have a pure titanium temple with gold plating and then enamel that surrounds the, again, M&N characters. Then we see a very subtle, very minimal acetate inlay. Just look at the craftsmanship here on the bridge section. Now, this is not functional in this case. It doesn't do anything. It's just there to make the frames ornate and beautiful and special. Feel like an artist wearing them. If that's your vibe, if you're a creative person, I feel like these would represent you really, really well. An absolutely iconic piece. Now, we're down to what I would consider to be the top 5 Matsuda eyewear pieces. We've got to explore this pair next. I'm actually lost for words when I pick these up and hold them in my hands. For someone who has a YouTube channel about glasses and talks about them constantly, for me to be lost for words by a pair of glasses is saying a lot. The level of detail, the level of sculpting with titanium, the intricacy, I mean, wow. The word masterpiece almost doesn't do it justice when you see it from every angle. When you hold it in your hands, I am lost for words, but we should talk about it. So first of all, titanium. This is all 100% titanium, gold plated. Look at the little circular end tips with the Matsuda logo embedded in them. Again, enamel inlay, just wow. We have the stained glass effect on the side shield here. Really small engravings, like everywhere. And then just look at the temple. Just look at like how embellished that is, how complex it is. And then you put them on, and these just feel like stunningly comfortable. These are so lightweight, despite having so much presence and so much aura about them. They still feel like you've almost not got them on. If you wear these, like, nobody is gonna have any sunglasses that even come close to what you're wearing. And its companion, I guess we'll cover next. Same construction, everything really the same, but this one is plated in Palladium. So you get that gorgeous silver finish, which contrasts so amazingly well with the red. We see that red carried through to the end tips as well. These are just as comfortable, but a more unconventional shape. And I actually prefer this shape personally. It's a bit more angular, a bit more edgy. It's almost like gothic and vampiric, but in a fashionable way. Like, you can definitely see these on a runway, on a catwalk. Could you wear it in everyday life? I think so. I think the side shield here is just subtle and minimalistic enough. Now we're getting down to the last 3, and once we've got through those last 3, I'm going to be unboxing a limited edition pair that's actually housed inside this box. I think next, we have to cover this extraordinary acetate frame, which at first glance isn't so extraordinary. You know, from a distance, you might just think this is a black, round pair of glasses. I guess that is also kind of true. Everything about the proportions of this, the shaping of it, and of course the beauty then lies in the details. Starting with the shape, it's not overly round, and I love that. It's really round, but it's not too round, and that is a very fine balance to strike. Matsuda achieved it perfectly. I love the way that the temples connect to the front. This negative space here around the hinge thing is so cool and ties in with this straight line that we see wrapping around the lug of the glasses. Then it's just the right balance of thickness. It's not too thick, but it's also thick enough to give the glasses loads of presence. My favorite detail about this frame is the fact that we actually have a very subtle titanium inlay within the acetate. You rarely see that. You'll see acetate within titanium, but to get a titanium frame inside the acetate, that's exquisite. The engravings on the hinge are just the perfect finishing touch. This is one of the best examples of a acetate frame stylistically that I've ever seen, and I don't say that lightly. Now we're down to my favorite 2, the most iconic Matsuda pieces, the most special, the most creative, the most unique, and I'm going to just cover them at the same time because, I mean, they are artworks. They belong in a museum. Let's start with the 10605. Don't ask me how they come up with those numbers. If you wear this, you are the main character. It gives just main character vibes. If you're a stylish person, if you can pull it off, if you've got that confidence, go for it. You'll get everybody stopping you and asking you where your sunglasses are from and what they are. They're kind of steampunky, and the fact that this came from the early 90s just shows how far ahead of his time Matsuda was. The aged effect on the titanium as well makes them look like they came from something in like the 19th century. The fact that there's a lip on the top as well is actually quite functional. It means you've got more sun protection from above. These are just an item to kind of be awe-inspired by. You hold them and it's just like, yes, I am holding a true work of art. I'm holding a masterpiece. And then you've got this one, the true originator of the stained glass effect, which you see carried through to some of the newer pieces. Just look at the mechanism on the hinge as you fold it. You see that? It actually slides down through that gap. So cool. It's like a fidget spinner, you kind of want to play with it. But it does, again, have a bit of a functional effect. You've got a little bit of side protection here. Let's not kid ourselves, this is designed purely for style. Yeah, 99% of people aren't going to pull this off. They're not even going to feel comfortable stepping out the door in it. But for that 1% who has the vibe, there is no eyewear in the world, maybe JF you could argue, that would come close to this in originality. Almost a perfect note to end on, but let's talk this. Maybe Mitsuhiro Matsuda's true masterpiece. Hence why each one of these, this is the re-edition by the way, because this style that I'm about to show you originally came out in the 90s. This re-edition is actually limited to 500 pieces, of which this is number 171. And it's a sight to behold as you open up this beautiful wooden box, take out these sunglasses, because these kind of integrate everything that we've talked about in this video so far. These stained glass side shields, they snap into place. It's like the most satisfying feeling when you snap those into place. The thing with this is it's not just a fashion masterpiece. This is actually wearable, in my opinion. I think an ordinary, well, maybe not an ordinary person, but I think a lot of people can actually wear these as their sunglasses and it works. With these two pieces, I feel like they are really, really quirky and probably too wild, too crazy for the average, well, certainly for the average person, probably too crazy and wild for most people. I like how it's kind of low key in the black, but then the side shields bring that glow to it. They bring that sense of mystery as well, because you feel really concealed by these sunglasses. You feel like a celebrity behind them. You feel like you could go somewhere and people are gonna be like, who is that? And the fact that this comes from the fashion world, from arguably one of the most iconic people in fashion, certainly in Japanese fashion, it does feel special to kind of hold it in your hands. They're a true masterpiece, and wearing it, you feel like you've got a masterpiece on your face, and you probably look like a masterpiece wearing them as well. And on that note, it's time to give Matsuda the SF score. Starting with style. I think there's something for everyone within this collection. You have more simple pieces and you have more complicated pieces, of course, which are maybe too much for a lot of people. But if you want a stylish pair of glasses, you will find your level here. And for me, they achieve a 10 out of 10. When it comes to originality, I think you couldn't argue that they could have anything less than 10 out of 10 as well. When it comes to craftsmanship, this is actually something that I did think about, because for me, Masunaga is 10 out of 10 craftsmanship. And I've said that I don't know if these are actually as well made, in my opinion, as Masunaga. But in terms of embellishments and like the actual complexity of them, they are actually superior to Masunaga. And therefore that's gonna make up for the difference. I think we've got to give them a 10 out of 10 again. Straight run of 10s. Now, when it comes to comfort, I think there are some pieces that are extremely comfortable, but most of them fall short of that. I wore my Matsuda aviators on my trip to America, and I thought they were comfortable to a point. My frame, which was one of the titanium, so therefore one of the more comfortable pieces, was probably only a 7 out of 10. And if you balance it out against some of these really heavy acetates, I think overall, honestly, more like a 5 out of 10 for comfort, which is relatively low, especially for titanium frames. In terms of durability, these are very much built to last. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that they didn't need to do, which you think maybe that could fail, probably would eventually. On balance, you know, they are exceptional quality. I don't think they're just gonna fall apart. I think they are gonna last a long time. I think we're gonna go with a 7 out of 10. And that gives Matsuda an incredibly strong SF score of 8.4. Truly one of the best eyewear collections in the world and full of amazing masterpieces. But what do you think? Which one did you like best? Let me know in the comments below. And are these a 10 out of 10 when it comes to style? Or did I get it wrong? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more of the best eyewear content on the internet. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks guys, bye-bye.